Hello everyone, and welcome to Varied Nexus. Today I'll be talking about Nier Automata, and I'm going to be honest with you, this has got to be one of my favorite games of all time, which I don't usually bestow that, title or claim lightly, especially for a game that's barely a year old at this point, but I'm going to be honest, once again with you guys, this game is so good. The story is absolutely amazing. It's very thought provoking, and it takes some angles on this whole android versus machine conflict that the game is based on that I would never have expected to see, especially in other games. It's amazing the type of creative direction that Platinum Games took with this, and that alone is what makes it worth getting. Keep in mind, I'm not going to have any spoilers here, so don't worry about that. That will be the extent of me talking about the story. But let's get down to the actual game itself. Combat-wise, I found the game's combat to be just very fluid, very heavy-hitting, and overall, it very much had this epic feeling about it. It does take some getting used to, especially if you're like me, who's coming from Xbox to PlayStation, and getting used to a new controller, it did take some getting used to. But overall, I just think that they did an amazing job. It's a lot of this video is just gonna be me rambling about Nier Automata, but there's not much really I can say. It's just so amazing. The combat, like I said, has a tremendous amount of weight to it. The way they do your, I guess you could say, skills in the game with these chip sets that you program into 2B or 9S is just completely unique. Because in most games, you would have your standard level up trees where you put skill points in, and oh, and look at that, you've unlocked a new skill. But Nier basically has you killing machine enemies or looting things and picking up these random chipsets, or you could even buy them in in-game shops, and installing them in your Android. And what's so cool about it is that you have this limited space to install these chips. So you might have 200 or so chips, but you want a specific chip that maybe regenerates your health when you're not in combat, or one that lessens the damage you take or increases your damage output. And you kind of have to make these decisions because each chip has its own size. So in the end, leveling up goes from, oh, I'm just going to get that skill and that skill and that skill, and occasionally choosing, between two separate skills. This makes you go and say, well, I want this specific loadout, but I can't get it because this chip takes up half of the space here, and the other chip takes up about 2/3, so it's not going to fit. So I need to figure out what chips I want to put in and what chips I'm going to keep out, and what chipset to use for certain combat areas, and it's just amazing. The amount of thought that went into progression and combat in this game is astounding. As for the soundtrack, a lot of it is choir, which was kind of interesting to hear that in this game. I wasn't really expecting a choir to be in a very much a kind of, I guess you could say, sci-fi, cyberpunk-esque world. It's strange because you were playing as Android, so I expected maybe a bit more of a techno vibe or some kind of futuristic soundtrack, but instead you get a lot of these sweeping choir crescendos, and it's just absolutely a treat. It really is. It's a treat for the ears. It's unexpected for a game in this genre, but at the same time, it carries the tone so well. God, I just, it sounds like I have nothing to talk about, but I can't really do this game justice by talking about it, It's one of those games that you just have to experience for yourself, because at least for me, it is very hard to explain why Nier is just so good. And I know a lot of other people have said the same thing. It's hard to explain, but it's worth it. And I hate the fact that I can't give you more to go on. But Nier Automata is just an amazing game. That's really all I can say, and I'm gonna I'll just say it right now, I highly recommend, if you're a fan of JRPGs, if you're a fan of action games, if you're a fan of Platinum games, so if you like Bayonetta, for example, get Nier Automata. You will not be disappointed. The story is great, the characters are great, the soundtrack is amazing, the combat is extremely fluid, and even the progression system is completely unique, especially in a day and age where progression systems in RPGs kind of almost feel like they're uh, copying one another. It's just so amazing, and I highly recommend the game. But thanks for listening to me essentially ramble on. This has been Varied Nexus signing off. I'll see you guys next time.